Well, it's come down to this. Only one of these guitars can stick. Which two will be sent packing? Why don't you join me? Hey there, I'm Dan, the self-proclaimed Lonely Rocker. Thank you so much for joining me today. So it comes down to this, where I finally have to choose which one of these Schecters that I'm going to keep. Now, I don't want to run through the whole story because I've been talking about this for quite a while now, but long story short, my first Schecter experience, the C1 SLS Elite, was a bit of a failure, but restored my faith in Schecter immediately because I did buy a Solo-II Custom after the fact. And one of the best customer service experiences that I've ever had, that a guitar that was in essence out of warranty, Schecter, with the help of the local Canadian distributor, agreed to replace the guitar because the tuning issues were beyond repair. Now, unfortunately, the C1 SLS Elite is not in production anymore, so they made an offer to me that I could choose a guitar within a similar price point. So the only real benefit I got being a YouTuber, because I paid for that guitar, and this guitar is being given to me as a replacement for something that I paid for. This video is not sponsored. I'm not getting some, kickback on the background. This was something I asked. I said, hey, if I got to choose one, why don't we turn this into a shootout? And then I'll get a chance to try a few cool guitars and pick the one that I want to keep. So keep that in mind, that this is all my opinion, and everything I say about these guitars really comes down to my experience with these three guitars over the last few months. So I want to tell you a little bit of the backstory, because one of the things that was asked of me when I was asked to choose a replacement was if I could choose something that was available at in the current inventory at the Canadian distributor. I had made a short list of guitars that I was interested in bringing in, and when I finally got the list from the distributor, not one of my choices was on that list. And at first I felt a little bit of disappointment. They did say they could order something for me, but it would take possibly quite a bit longer, and they really wanted to wrap this up. And I figured, you know what, they wanted to replace the guitar, and for a guitar that was out of warranty, I figured I would keep this simple. So I want to share that list with you, the original list of guitars that was presented to me, that I was supposed to choose one and then ultimately got to choose three, but again, only one of them is going to stay. So I originally chose a guitar, sight unseen, just based on this list of guitars that was given to me. Because I chose it, it was after the fact that I thought, hey, maybe I could ask them to get a couple of extra guitars and start this process. Now, these guitars have been featured in videos over the last few months. I think they've been here for about 3 months now. And then I did a full, we'll call it shootout video. If you missed that, I'll link that somewhere above my head. It'll definitely be in the end card. If you want to hear all the tones and see all the features of these guitars, that's the video to check out. I don't need to revisit that again. But the one that I chose, that I thought ultimately was going to be the replacement, actually sunk to the bottom of the list of these three. Just reinforces my belief that a guitar really needs to be in your hands to know if it's the right one for you. All right, it's time to make a decision. So let's do this by process of elimination. So the first guitar that's going to leave our list here was actually the one I thought was going to be my ultimate choice. But a funny thing happened along the way. I played the guitars, and my decision is purely based on my personal feeling and experience with these instruments. So the first one that's going to come off the list, which is the one I thought I was going to keep, but no, is the Sun Valley Super Shredder. This was my initial pick, but after spending 3 months with this guitar, it slipped to the bottom of the list. Let me get comfortable and I'll explain why. So how did this go from being number 1 on my list to number 3 on my list? Well, simply, I got a chance to play it. But something I want to draw attention to is I've played a number of guitars with a hip shot bridge, and I actually really like the hip shot bridge. But one thing I've observed with guitars with this bridge is that the neck has to be set up perfectly for the hip shot to be able to do its thing, especially if you want to get the action down, because you've got independent height control of all the strings plus intonation, and that's a very, very flexible feature to have on the bridge. The problem is the size of the set screws. The lower you go down, they start to poke up. And when I got this guitar, I found that the action was a little too high. Now, remember, these guitars are on loan. These came directly from the distributor. If you deal with a good retailer, I know the retailers that I deal with here, they get guitars in, they generally set them up pretty good, or it comes with a free setup, so you have a chance to get someone to kind of set up to your taste, and by the time you get it home, this thing's rocking and ready to go. This one was really in dire need of a setup because it wasn't set up to my liking. So I attempted to make some minor adjustments to it, and I say minor because these guitars are here on loan. And I couldn't get the action down enough without having the set screws start to poke up. And I talked to a couple friends of mine who do setups, and one of them had suggested, oh, you could maybe put a business card in the neck pocket. He started talking about adjustments to the neck, and I said, I can't do that. This is here on loan. So no matter what I did, when I finally got it low enough, the set screws were poking up. Now you can get shorter set screws. I've actually done that on another guitar. That's just not something I was able to do on something that was a loaner. And really, it involved a little bit of work. It's not hard. We adjust our guitars, but I just couldn't get this thing playing the way I wanted it to. I love everything else about this guitar. I mean, this finish is so smooth and comfortable. The bevel is just so rounded and really feels really great in your hands. The satin finish is just really, really nice. This Wenge neck is very interesting. I mean, aesthetically, just a very, very cool looking guitar. I love these pickups. There's so much to like about this guitar, but the neck was just not doing it for me. And really, at the end of the day, all of this stuff can be great, but if you're not feeling it here, it's not the right guitar for you. And I noticed I wasn't playing very well on it. I was looking at some of the clips that I was playing in the videos. I had to do a bunch of extra takes until I got it right. And I said, you know what? Something's happening here. Something is telling me that this is not the right guitar for me. The neck just didn't do it for me. And even though they call it a thin C, it's a little bit bigger than other thin Cs that I've played. I noted that in the shootout. So anyways, I don't want to labor this to death. This is a gorgeous guitar, and it is going to make a wonderful instrument for someone out there. Unfortunately, it's just not going to be me. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, I have a quick favor to ask of you. Apparently, I don't ask this enough, but I would really appreciate it if you're not subscribed, if you would click the subscribe button, perhaps click the like button, maybe and leave me a comment. YouTube can be really competitive, especially in the gear space. And if you like this type of content, it goes a long way to helping me grow this channel, encouraging me to just keep going and bringing you experiences like this. Every little bit helps, and I really appreciate it. And then there were two. Now, it's funny because these two guitars, I have good reasons for rejecting either one of them. I already have a Solo-II Custom, so the thought of bringing in another Solo-II is that going to be a bit redundant. You know, I like to experiment with different types of instruments, grow my collection with a variety, let's say. And this one, which clearly is a metal guitar, admittedly not really my style, but ultimately the one that I chose, which I will reveal by removing one of these, came down to playability. But it was really, really close with these two. And the one that we need to say goodbye to is the Synyster Custom. This was actually a tough decision. I like this guitar a lot more than I thought I would, but let's discuss. So the Synyster Custom, I dubbed this the meme guitar. Not that I think there's anything funny about this other than stylistically, it's not something typically that I would look at for me. I mean, it's a little bit out there with the death bats, and I talked about that in the shootout. But a friend of mine, and I mentioned this in the last video, picked it up and said, you know what, this is the best guitar of the three. From a quality standpoint, I mean, this is a solid guitar, but it really came down to the last two guitars, and clearly I've revealed the one I'm going to keep. And the main reason, well, there's two. Aesthetically, I struggled with it a little bit. I mean, close my eyes, this guitar is killer. And I like the body style. This slightly larger body is actually the most comfortable of the three sitting down, because I sit down a lot as I am here in the studio. And that's what made the decision difficult, because I play this thing really well. It feels really great sitting down. It's well balanced. And the slightly oversized body here is just, for a guy like me, that's not the smallest guy in the world, really, really comfortable. These pickups are great. I think it came down to the Floyd. And not that there's anything wrong with the Floyd. I don't use a Floyd a lot. I just want a fixed bridge, solid tuning. There's one thing I noticed about getting this guitar in tune, and if you have a Floyd, you know what I'm talking about. As you start to detune and retune, getting it in tune is quite a process. It took me a while. You go through it, and then the first string's out of tune again. You got to keep going in closer. And I found some techniques to kind of speed them up a little bit, but I was like, you know what? I get frustrated because I'm here, I'm working quick, I'm making videos, I'm writing music for, you know, the videos, and sitting here spending 20 minutes tuning my guitar. I just don't have that kind of time. So I realized one day just doing that I'm just going to get frustrated. I'm not ready right now to have one of my main guitars have a Floyd on it because I don't really need it, though I do foresee getting one going forward. So when it came down to the two, a convenience factor kicked in. I'll talk about the details of the other one when we get there, but I just want to say that this guitar is a killer guitar. And this is based on your comments. A lot of you guys love this model. Some of you have a whole collection of these, and I understand why. They come in different colors, and it's just, I understand where your passion is. This is a killer guitar, but I just wasn't ready to go Floyd and then blend that with the look that I'm not really gels with this guy. Unfortunately, and I hope I don't regret this, but I have to say goodbye to the Synyster Custom. Well, it's hard to be dramatic when there's only one left. Obviously, the one that I've chosen to keep here is the Schecter Solo-II Apocalypse. Now, originally, I brought this in. I was kind of interested in a different model, but this Apocalypse series is interesting to me. But the idea of getting a second Solo-II when I already have a Solo-II Custom, I wanted more variety. That's what was going on in my head. And when I was looking at it online, and basically what I see is this, and I see this. But once I got it here, I realized that while this is called a Solo-II, it is a very different guitar. And ultimately, this is the one I chose, the Schecter Solo-II Apocalypse. Honestly, I was a little bit disappointed that there wasn't an E1 on the list, because if there was, I probably would have chosen that over this. I was resistant to the idea of bringing in another Solo-II because I already have one. And had I based that purely on the optics on a website, I would have missed out on an opportunity, because this guitar is not a Solo-II Custom. It is a very, very different guitar. In fact, I think this is closer to a C1 SLS Elite than it is to a Solo-II Custom. Much thinner body on it, sort of that thin neck on it. I love that Solo-II Custom, by the way. It's a wonderful guitar, and I just didn't feel I needed two of them. But playing this guitar, I can tell you that it is a very, very different instrument. It shares the same outline. It's the Solo-II shape, but it's not a Solo-II Custom. It's a different guitar. I mean, it's got very different pickups on it. Obviously, there's a very different aesthetic to it. But the number one reason why I choose a guitar, forget about all of this cool stuff on here, nice finishes and that, even good sounding pickups, which does matter to me, by the way. The number one reason I choose a guitar is the relationship between my left hand and the neck and the fretboard. And I really like the thin C profile, the Schecter Thin C. I've now tried it on a couple of different guitars. I've tried something a bit thicker, the Ultra Thin C, which I had on the last one, plus the Synyster has the Ultra Thin, which is a really cool neck. And if it's stable, it's a pretty cool neck. But this size, this shape just really melts into my hand. I just felt I played so much better on here. I played with more confidence. And a big thing for me is tuning stability, because I want just a stable recording machine that stays in tune. You've got the Tune-o-matic style bridge with a stop tailpiece here. This guitar is rock solid when it comes to tuning, because I'm changing my tunings. I drop, I go up. I went up and down with this guitar. Standard tuning, I dropped it down to drop C sharp, and no problem. This thing was staying in tune, and that's exactly what I need. So if you factor in the tuning stability, plus the fact that this feels really good in my hands, the contest was over before it started. This is giving me what I need. But these Apocalypse pickups are a very aggressive passive pickup, really high output, and they sound really good. The bark and the growl that I get from these pickups is really, really great. I tried it with a number of my different amps, and every time I was like, yes, yes, love what I was getting from these. So you combine all of that, but ultimately the feel and playability and the tuning stability, and it was no contest. This guitar offers everything that I need in a recording guitar. Listen, this finish is great too. It doesn't hurt that this guitar is a looker as well. So really happy to welcome the Schecter Solo-II Apocalypse into my guitar family. Well, end of a long journey, but I finally have identified my latest Schecter guitar and latest guitar in my studio. I'm actually really, really excited about this. You know, again, I think the moral to this story is that we need to get our hands on guitars. If we're just basing our decisions on what we see online in pictures, sometimes we can be disappointed. Sometimes we can be surprised. And I think that's the fun about being a guitar player. It's all about discovery. And playing these three guitars was a really educational experience for me. I never thought that I would like that Synyster Custom guitar just from the aesthetics, right? But once I got my hands on it, it is a really, really good guitar. And I know that's going to find itself a good home soon. I'm almost sad to see that one go. The Super Shredder, well, you heard my thoughts on it, but this one is a lot of fun. It's going to cover the territory that the C1 SLS Elite, I had planned to cover with. But to make this officially mine, there's something that I do need to do. In this little tag here, well, it's time to say goodbye. It is now officially my guitar. So a big thank you to Schecter, and especially the Canadian distributor, for making this all happen. Honestly, they didn't have to exchange the guitar. It was well past the warranty, but they agreed there was something wrong with it. And like I said, that was independent of the YouTube channel. This whole shoot up thing came later. So they were sincere in wanting to make sure that I was happy. And I really want to thank them a lot. I have a lot of faith in the Schecter brand. I now have a couple of Schecters here, and I certainly know it will not be my last. Anyways, I would love your thoughts on my decision. Would you have made the same decision based on the information that I've provided you? What do you think of my choice? We're definitely going to be seeing this on the channel in regular rotation, and I'm really excited to see what I do with this guitar. Anyways, love to hear your thoughts. That's what the comment section is for. I do have links to these guitars if you do want to check them out. Those may be affiliate links if you want to help the channel. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help the channel here, and I really appreciate that. But if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And while you're down there, well, I did a full shootout on these 3 guitars. If you did miss it, I'm going to pop it right here if you want to check it out. And remember, you don't need a band to rock and roll. I'll catch you in the next one.